Hello and welcome to the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token podcast. This is episode 101. My name is Chris.
I'm David.
And it's just a couple's night tonight.
Yeah.
Just the two of us.
No Pawel.
Pawel and Euan are still recovering from episode 100.
Yep.
Pawel did a lot of shouting.
He really did.
It's only been like a couple of days since we released episode 100 and we're sitting back in front of the microphones again. We're having to record this episode early. But this is video games this week. And we did promise pre-100 that we would talk about Red Dead Redemption 2. I think that was episode 98 actually.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was our last video games episode, which is a few weeks ago. So Red Dead 2 has been out for...
Forever.
It feels like forever now. I feel like I've been playing it forever, that's for sure. But we did say we were going to talk about it, so that's what we're going to do, Dave.
Yep.
And I think it's only me and you that have been playing it anyway, so...
Yeah.
We're not going to miss Euan and Pawel. Pawel interjecting with stuff that he saw in a YouTube video.
Yes. Yeah, we've already heard Pawel's opinions about this game.
Yeah.
And the other game we're going to talk about based on thgoing he's heard.
And speculated about. Speaking of speculation, Dave, we're going to do this review in a more amusing manner because, I mean, the game's been out for a while and you started writing down a list of things that you loved and things that you hated about Red Dead 2.
Yeah.
But it's been that long since you wrote that list that you're not entirely sure what half of it means anymore.
So, some of it I can tell. It's pretty clear. Other bits, don't really know on my love-hate list. I'll give you a few examples. In love, fish suicide, that jumps out.
Fish suicide? Did a fish commit suicide in front of you?
I do remember what this was. Yeah, I spent ages... I saw, like, because you can fish, for the two people who don't know, or who listen to our podcast who don't know what Red Dead Redemption is 2, Red Dead Redemption 2 is the cowboy simulator. It's not, cowboy story, adventure-y, open world, do cowboy things, but also you can go fishing, which is a new addition. You couldn't do this in the previous one, Red Dead Redemption. So, naturally, being a big fan of fishing in games myself, I made a beeline to the water. Well, I say made a beeline. It's a long time before this game allows you to fish. It's one of the one of the things in this blooming game is you cannot just go off and do whatever you want. You have to get through a sizable number of missions before. For me, it was a sizable number because I kept
think it
running
changes
off.
though. I think it depends. I think you just have to be in the camp at a certain time of the day or something like that for you to go on the fishing thing. I could be wrong about that because there are certain things that do happen in this game at certain times and like triggered at different times.
It's the first camp that you go to because in this game you play a band of outlaws who camps at various locations as they have to keep moving because they're constantly being pursued by various lawmen and bounty hunters.
Pinkertons.
The Pinkertons, yes. I once did a job for the Pinkertons. That's what it makes me think of every time. But I wasn't hunting outlaws. I was peeling carrots and things of that nature. It's very different.
What? Were the actual Pinkertons?
It's a catering company. But yes, yeah, it is the first camp that you go to that unlocks the fishing mission. But I'd played for a substantial amount of time before that came up, just because as soon as I was able to, after I'd done the first, what I thought were the necessary tutorial missions to allow you to then go out into the open world and explore a little bit and do your own thing, it was not the case. I haven't written this down in my list, but under my hate section it should say horsebrush. I don't see it there. I might write it down now. Because that blooming horsebrush was one of the new things you can do or have to do in this game is keep your horse clean.
Yes.
It's a pretty easy task. And the game tells you about it, and it says pretty early on, it says, oh, your horse is dirty. You can ride through the water to clean it, which doesn't really seem to work very well. Maybe I was doing it wrong. But you can also brush your horse, and you can, whenever you go up to address your horse using L2, which you use for a lot of things in this game, one of the options there is push left on the D-pad to brush your horse, but you can't do it until you've got a brush. So I went to the shops. It's like, I'll go get a brush. I'll go to the shop. No, wasn't there. I spent ages looking for this brush. Trying to figure. Oh yeah, the stables, right? Yeah, not in the general store. Obviously, it's in the stables. That's where they.
That's where they would keep a horse brush.
Yeah. I could see the stables. I knew where they were. Couldn't seem to get in them for some reason. It's because I hadn't done the necessary mission to open up and unlock the stables, and that's where you get the horse brush. So a good 8 hours on horse brush quest. This is a common theme for me in this game, is going on little quests and being continually frustrated in my aims.
I think I learned that lesson quite quickly in this game. There are just certain things, you're right, that do unlock at certain points, and you have to trigger them in one way or another.
Yeah.
Going off looking for specific things. The game kind of hints that you can do, but you can't.
Oh yeah, it tells you can do these things.
Yeah.
It's right there on the screen. It's not hidden, and it's in the help as well. I mean, the help, when you start the game, there's no manual, as there is no longer a manual with games anymore, but there's an in-game help that is very much...
nice map, though.
Oh yeah, I'd rather have a map than a manual, to be fair. There is an in-game help that is very like what you would get in a written manual, and it's very good, but it's also full of things that you can't do yet because you have to do the mission. And I'm the sort of person who reads the help, and that's exactly what I did. And I wish I hadn't, because it told me all sorts of stuff that I just couldn't do. It was very frustrating. But yeah, fish suicide, to get back to that.
Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Once I finally had my fishing rod, I saw these massive fish, and I spent ages trying to catch them in this lovely, beautiful lake. And while I was doing this, 2 of the fish that I was trying to catch actually basically just died and washed up on the bank in front of me. Which somewhat lessened the achievement of actually catching them, because I could just pick one up. It was right there. I think if they get into water that's too shallow, they can kind of get stuck and they just die.
They must know about your fishing prowess in other games. They just gave up. They just surrendered.
Maybe that's what happened.
So far you've told us that Red Dead 2 is about suicidal fish and brushing your horse.
Yeah. Also,
is that what you got from the games?
Mm-hmm. I've got also in my love section, in quotes, I keep killing animals needlessly. This is a reference to a really cool thing they have in this game in the camp, which we'll probably talk about more, but every so often you get these custom conversations where someone sort of takes you to one side and gives you you have a little chat with them, specifically with one of your companions. And I think at certain key points, your character, Arthur Morgan, will say something that is somehow related to what you've been up to in the game. Or at least I hope that's what it is, because that's what he kept saying in mine. I assume if you've done lots of crime and robbing people, which I've done very little of, he'll say something about that. So whenever he was talking to whoever it was, Mary Beth, they'd have a nice chat about their current thing, and then she'd be like, "So how are you, Arthur?" And that's what he says. He's like, "Oh, not so good. I just keep killing animals." Which is true, because that's what I spent a lot of my time doing as soon as I was able to get out of camp and out of the mountains, because if you try and leave camp when you're in the mountains, you just freeze to death. So as soon as I was able, I basically went hunting a lot. And yeah. That's
interesting. I mean, you're making me think, are those custom conversations? Because I think in my conversation with her, I think Arthur said, "Oh, I've just killed some innocent people. I don't know why I do it." So yeah, maybe you're right, because I'm pretty sure he was talking about killing people, not animals.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't looked it up.
That's
so
interesting.
I'm
I never really
sure.
considered that could be specific.
It did kind of seem like it, because mine was so out of place.
Yeah.
Because he just talked about killing animals needlessly, which is not true. These were not needless killings. These were very much justified. I was hunting and filling out my little book of animals. Although you can collect them just by looking at them with your binoculars, which is quite cool. But anyway, yeah, I mean, there's so many things in this list. If I just went through them, it would be a bit weird. But those were definitely some highlights. I've got lost furs from horse when you die.
Yep, that's definitely irritating as hell.
It's for a long time, it was my number one complaint in the game.
Yeah,
was that you can go hunting in this game, and it's very time consuming because you have to track down prime quality animals and skin them, and you put them on the back of your horse, and then you can go and turn them in somewhere. Ideally at the trapper who the game will tell you about a lot, but it'll be a long time before you actually see one. But anyway, if you die, you lose a bit of money, but way more importantly, any furs that are on the back of your horse you lose. This is a massive, massive blow, because you can spend a good hour, 2 hours collecting them, and then get ambushed and like bushwhacked, expire, or just make some sort of mistake and die, and then all your effort is gone. And it's a crazy decision. It really annoys me because the only way around it is is to get a couple and then immediately go and turn them in, and then go back, get a few more, turn them in. So it totally breaks up. That is no fun. That ruins the game if you're doing that. You should be able to do all this. This is the sort of game where you meander around and do stuff as you go. So that there's no way you're going to go back, forward. I lost so many, like 3-star wolf pelts and whatever, things that you need.
Yeah, I lost pelts once when my horse careened into a tree, and I didn't realise that I just completely forgot that the furs were there. But I had a couple of really expensive ones. I think there was one like special. I think it was the bear, the legendary bear or something like that. I can't remember.
At least with the legendary animals, you don't actually lose it.
Right.
I mean, it's still annoying.
But
I mean, the principle, but anything, yeah, because.
But I remember I was sitting because my girlfriend was watching me, and we like the horse went into a tree, and she didn't like that. And I got back on the horse. The horse was fine, and I just rode off, and then realised that the fur was gone. So I turned around, and then I got a message on the top of the screen saying that I'd lost this thing.
Must be if you go too far.
Yeah. And I went back to the place where I knew the exact spot that I hit this tree. And it was gone. Yeah, it was just gone forever. And I was not happy about it at all. And my girlfriend's actually convinced that the game deliberately, I mean, this isn't, obviously, it's not to do with the tree at all, but she thinks that the game deliberately puts things in your roads when you're carrying, like, expensive things or whatever, or you're in the middle of doing an event or something like that. There's generally a coach in the way when you go around a corner or something like that. Maybe it's a coincidence, but you know, I'm kind of way into that side as well. Like,
this is exactly the sort of thing my girlfriend would say. She always comes up with, like, when we're playing Animal Crossing, like the mobile phone game, she's always coming up with these theories for like conspiracies that the developers have put in place to
ruin it.
It's like, I don't think they have, but like they could, but like. They don't need to. It's like, you know, the game always never gives you the things that you need and all this sort of stuff. It's like, no, I'm pretty sure it's random. But yeah, I mean, falling off your horse becomes a bit annoying after a while. It's really cool the first few times it happens.
Oh yeah, them horse physics.
Yeah,
them horse physics. They've got that down.
The general stumbling, like sliding down steep hillsides, either when you're on foot or on your horse, and it is great. But like the 20th time you ride straight into a tree and get knocked off, it really becomes freaking.
Yeah, it does. It does become a bit frustrating.
There needs to be some sort of horse upgrade that you can get that makes it dodge trees.
Right, Dave. I feel like that we're complaining about mechanics here. So tell me something you love off your list. Something you love.
Oh, so much. There's a lot to list. I'm trying to think the best way to do it. I really liked Red Dead Redemption, the first one, and there were 3 really important things that I liked about it. The first was definitely the visuals, and particularly the quality of the sunlight. Sounds very pretentious like I'm a photographer, but it has this day-night cycle, and it goes quite quickly, and when you camped and you would go to sleep in your tent, and so when you woke, the sun was coming up, and it had a particular look to it that was amazing at the time. It was incredibly realistic, I felt, and it made me feel like I was actually outdoors. I mean, it did help. I was playing it on a very, very large projector screen, so that helped as well. But it really was that kind of, if you get up early and you're up before everyone else and the sun's just coming up and you're in a nice outdoorsy location, and it totally captured that. And I thought that was amazing. And I loved doing it. I loved making my little camp in that game. And because you don't have to. You can ignore, it doesn't really do very much putting your little camp down. But I love doing it. And that is still there in the Red Dead Redemption 2, because the game is stunningly beautiful. It's a massive understatement. It's like, it is by far the best looking game I've ever played.
Yeah.
And it's not the fidelity of the graphics necessarily that make it beautiful. It's the outdoorsiness and the light. It does amazing, the stuff it does with the haze and the sun coming through the light, and the whole day-night cycle. And
I took a screenshot when I was riding through a forest when the sun was quite low in the sky, and the way that the light just came through the trees, it was so realistic and just so breathtaking, in fact. And I managed to get a screenshot after having turned off all the UI and everything. I was getting really annoyed because there was a perfect moment to capture this picture, and a bloody message kept popping up in the stuff on the screen saying random stuff. And I was like, go away, fuck off. But yeah, you're right. The way that they've done the white and the haze and all that stuff it's amazing. It's incredible.
Yeah. And you've got this amazing environment to explore as well. And it's very diverse, and it captures a lot of the different what we would call biomes, but the different types of outdoorsy terrain that you would get in the US. So you've got your deserts, your savannas, there's so much mountains, and there's a, even though you're not up high, there was what basically is like an alpine valley in one section, which is a big sort of flat area with loads of flowers in it, all sorts. And if you were to me, I would be happy just riding around and finding things in this game. And the game does put things for you to find, little points of interest. And I keep finding more of them. Last night I found a bit where someone had put New Hanover in stones. I don't know if you've come across that.
I've never seen that, no.
Yeah, and there must be so much that I've not seen in this game, and I'll probably never see, because I'm not going to play it obsessively to find every single thing. But there's so much in it that it doesn't matter. You will see cool things wherever you go. So it's definitely smashed it on that front, I think. And there's a couple of other things I really liked about Red Dead Redemption, the first one as well. One was the fact that it was a proper Western. And that wasn't a given when that game came out, because nobody really knew what we were going to get when the first Red Dead Redemption came out. All we knew was it was from Rockstar. And so you kind of already you think it's going to be Grand Theft Auto Cowboys. That's what I kind of assumed. And even then, I was like, yeah, it's going to be cowboys, and it'll probably be quite violent and quite silly, and there'll be lots and lots of parodies of well-known westerns, because that's how they did the GTA 3 in particular, and San Andreas. Sorry, not San Andreas, Vice City as well. They were very heavy on movie pastiches, and I thought this would be the same. And it was nothing like that at all. And what you actually got was like a proper solid Western story in its own right. And it's not that it was a great story, but it was just so surprising. And it had all the sort of classic things that make a Western film. They were all in there, and from the themes of civilization coming from the east across to the west, and bringing electricity and the railroad and sanitation, but also driving out the old sort of slightly more wild ways that people are going to have to start, you're safer, but you're going to have to start paying taxes, and you can't just do whatever you please, and that's such a common theme in film westerns. And you always have older men sort of solemnly accepting. They always accept. It's they either accept their fate with great dignity, they're like, oh, there's no place for us in this world anymore. It's like, it's just the way things are going, or they're destroyed by it. It's sort of thing. So that was all there, and it just had all the sort of key sort of tropes of westerns, like, you know, railroads, stagecoaches, bank robberies, going down to Mexico to where the Revolutionary Wars are on. It was all there, and it was like, rather than being like a sort of violent spaghetti western, it was more like a TV serial. It was like a long, sprawling TV show. And Red Dead Redemption 2 is definitely that. It's definitely continued in that vein. It's different though.
And you definitely feel that sort of the old ways are gone as the theme for your bandit crew.
They do play
that's
on
what
that.
They're all about. That is the whole story with them. And it's all about the leader Dutch, who, you know, is in the first Red Dead as well, is the main antagonist. And he is definitely that guy. He is that guy doing there's no space for us anymore, but we're going to keep surviving as long as we can.
Yeah, they're desperately desperately trying to find some sort of place
yes,
they can go
right.
as a group. The family is like a massive theme in this one, which is quite unusual for a computer game. I would think I can't think of any others that make certainly not in the sort of AAA arena.
No.
So yeah, it's all about this group of outlaws, but in a various mix of ne'er-do-wells who've been thrown together in one way or another, but they've all been brought together by this character, Dutch, and they very much consider themselves a family, even though increasingly they try to make out at least that the world is against them. So yeah, it's still in that vein of a long, sprawling story, or at least it is the way I'm playing it, because I only play like one or maybe one story mission an evening.
But you do get that way with these games, though. You just end up wandering off and doing your own thing.
Yeah, you definitely really shouldn't in this game. I'm doing it wrong. Because
I think I've found a good balance.
Yes.
Like, where I'm kind of moving the story forward at the right time, but I'm making sure that I go off and do side quests. When a side quest appears, I'm kind of like, I should maybe go and do that now. But you do get to a point with the side quest where you go, like, no, it's time to move the story forward. And I don't really feel like... Well, actually, I'm going to rephrase that, because it's like you say, you are going to miss things in this game. You're going to miss a lot unless you play it religiously for
or look at or watch
like
videos that show
you
where...
all that sort of stuff. But the thing is that I've accepted that as part of the game. It's just this, like... There's this massive world that's been created, and it's amazing, and it's living, and there's so much going on in it. There's like so many little events happening in game terms, sort of thing. But it feels like, you know, Arthur is living in this world that's moving, and the people in it are alive. And you're not going to see every single person. You're not going to see everything that's been created in this world or whatever, and that's fine, because that's like, it's like you say, it's like you're living in a serial or something like that. It's like you're only focusing on the bits that are appropriate to what you're doing.
Yeah, and there is so much that, for me, like, I'm not I have been a completionist with games in the past, but definitely with this game, I feel like I don't mind if I miss things.
Yeah, same.
There's like the camp life they've focused on incredibly heavily. So when you go back to your camp, people are talking all the time. Mm-hmm. And initially, I was listening to everything people had to say, and it's worth listening to. But now I'm like, if I hear something off in the distance, I'm like, well, I don't really need to run off and listen to it. It's probably okay, because I'll hear something else another time. And it will be a different story, because I think some of them only get said once.
Yeah.
But it's fine, because there is so much. It's very unusual. I've never had that in a game before. Normally when I play a game, I'm like, if something's happening, I want to see it, because there's a good chance that's your only chance to see it, and there's a limited amount of stuff to see. But like, it's just nuts how much detail has gone into the sort of this is not the story, and it's not even the side quests. It's just the stuff around it, the ambient chatter.
Yeah.
And particularly
And that's what makes the game feel alive. Like you say, you're standing in that camp and you hear people shouting and arguing and stuff off in the distance, and it's like, but you're almost, as Arthur, just like thinking to yourself, I'm not going to go and listen to what those lunatics are arguing about. Like, screw that. Or maybe you go, oh, I'm going to go and break this fight up. And you can go and do this stuff. You can go and break the fight up if you want, but you can just leave them and get on with it. It's like, it makes no difference. But
it is amazing.
It just adds to the ambience. And it's great.
I mean, I love the way, like you're saying, like when people are having a conversation, there's two people having a conversation with each other in the camp. If you go and stand next to them, they will sometimes include you in the conversation. Right. I mean, I've never seen a game that does that before. So impressive, and the amount of effort that's gone into these small details is like nothing I've ever seen, and it's done in a different way because it's not like the details that you would get in a game like Deus Ex or Mass Effect, where it's all slavishly tied into these conversation trees, or not even like games like Skyrim where. Well, I mean, Skyrim's like, it's nothing like this in Skyrim, is it? I mean,
no,
it's so far away from. I mean, the thing with Skyrim is characters have a routine that they actually do stuff. In Red Dead Redemption, it's very much a kind of simulation of this. Like, people never go anywhere. Like, if you go in a town, you don't see people going to their work, or not in any great way that I've noticed. But it doesn't matter because it all seems so alive anyway. Do you remember the party? Remember I said?
Yeah, the party was brilliant. There was so much you could do at that party in terms of just wandering about, listening to people, and you could singing.
Yeah,
just standing singing along with the people playing the guitars, and there were so many different songs being played in different parts of the camp. And Arthur would sometimes, because he didn't know the lyrics, would just be like da 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 da. I was like, this is brilliant. This is so realistic.
Yeah, it was like everyone in camp was celebrating after rescuing one of their members who'd been captured, and they have a big party and a massive piss up. And like Chris says, it goes on for ages with sing songs and like proper songs.
Yeah.
And and you can join.
They're generally filthy.
Yeah, and it went like you could stay up till like the dying end, and people are like staggering about. They're going, John with Marston or whatever is off for a piss. There's people throwing up, and like some people go to bed, but others stay up for the absolute death till like 4 or 5 in the morning.
It's fantastic. It's a brilliant party simulator,
and it's nuts to think they would do that because you can just go to bed and not see any of it, and you need a lot of money in a game budget to be able to do stuff like that, because traditionally you wouldn't want to, you don't want to do stuff that people won't see.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an area where the AAA, as Pawel would say, is redeeming the kind of benefits that, or is giving the kind of benefits that I would like to see. I mean, that party thing, if that was in like a little indie game on Steam as part of a game, people would just be going bonkers for it. Like, it would be overwhelmingly positive reviews for a sort of, in a walking sim.
Yeah.
Where they're like, you can't do anything in this game but just sing songs and listen to people being drunk, and it's amazing. But yeah, and the last thing that I really, really liked about Red Dead Redemption was the fact that it included a romantic subplot that was unlike any other romantic interaction between in-game characters that I'd seen in any other game, in the sense that it was it was less juvenile. Especially in AAA gaming, there's a lot of games where you're like, oh, you can have romances with the characters, and it's so stupid. Like, I'm not going to get preachy about it, but it's like choose who you want to bang. Say the things that you think that they're going to want you to say. Get a cutscene. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's fine. It's often sort of done quite lightheartedly, and that's okay. But in Red Dead Redemption, there was I can't remember her name. It might be Bonnie. Is it McAllister? The woman who rescues you at the beginning is John Marston, and she sort of, you stay at her ranch while you sort of heal up, and it's kind of the tutorial as well. And in the first game, the character John Marston is a married man, and the Lady Bonnie is a widow, I think, if that indeed is her name, whatever she's called. So there's this kind of romantic tension between them, but you kind of know it's never going to go anywhere, and there's a kind of sadness about it. And they meet up again later in the game, and that just makes it even more sad when they sort of meet up again. So it's that whole thing of like, oh, and if circumstances were different in a different world and that sort of thing, but like it never really happens. And the way that was done and it's done just through dialogue. There's no gameplay there. It's just the dialogue. And it was like, I'd never seen anything like that in a game before. It just was more grown up, coming from other AAA games. And it's that dialogue quality that allowed that to happen. And like we were saying about the party, this is an area where Red Dead Redemption 2, again, delivers well. Certainly delivers in the quantity of dialogue, which is just ridiculous. There's like 60 hours. But yeah, it does a good job of having... I mean, you get to hear people talk to each other a lot in this game, and if you don't like that, then it's not the game for you. But yeah, you're talking to Dutch, and not everything they say is Oscar-worthy. I'm not saying that, but it's just a lot of it is really good and really solid and done really well, and just so different from playing the stories in other AAA games, which they're either really silly, or there are really good stories, but they tend to be like fairy tales. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but if you think of like Final Fantasy VII, everyone loved Final Fantasy VII, and I think it's a great story, but it's a fairy tale.
Yeah,
and it's a great fairy tale, but it's like fantastical. So games have done like these sort of fantastical stories really well, but they don't tend to go for serious stories so often. It was an area when Grand Theft Auto 5 actually did really well. So it's strange that Rockstar are the ones who are
suddenly bringing mature storylines.
They've always tried to do it from Grand Theft Auto. When San Andreas came out, they were like, we're going to make it a bit more, but it was, San Andreas was San Andreas. And then they tried with Grand Theft Auto 4, and it really didn't work out that well. And then I think with GTA 5, it's not that the story is ridiculous in GTA 5, but it's a relationship between two of the characters, Trevor and whatever the other guy's name is, and
I've never
Michael, Trevor and Michael, and it's a love-hate relationship between two characters who are best friends but also best of enemies. So it's a thing that you'll have seen maybe in films before, but never in a computer game. So yeah, it's very strange. I find that they're the ones who are pushing this area in AAA gaming. It's there in spades in indie gaming, I'm sure. So I haven't played enough of Red Dead Redemption 2 because I'm only on chapter 4 now, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm on chapter 3. I haven't played it for a while though. I mean, I've just been far too busy. But I mean, I still feel like even if the game was to end at chapter 3, I would still be more than satisfied with what I'd seen in it, if you see what I mean. Like, it just, in terms of the amount of money I paid for it and the amount of stuff I've done in it and all that, I feel like it's the game just achieves a lot.
Yeah, and it's far from faultless.
Oh god, no. It's
there's so many problems.
There are bugs in it. I've experienced some weird game-breaking bugs.
It's kind of horrible to play a lot of the time, especially initially, until you adapt to the way it's so
weird controls.
Slow and clunky, and there's little delays in a lot of the things you do. Like, I talked about the horse brushing. Brushing your horse is not fun, because you walk up to your horse, and you push the right the left button, and then there's this little pause while he just stands there. And then he gets the brush out. And I'm like, what's it doing? Is it like loading It's like everything's on the drive. What exactly is happening here? I think I don't know. I think he has to be positioned exactly right. And it's checking that it's not going to glitch and he's not going to like clip into the horse and fly through the air or something. But the menus delay every time you go back in a menu. So many, bugs, like Chris says. I mean, it's not the buggiest, but they are there. And
I mean, speaking of horses, I started a mission at one point, and it was a mission that was related to a horse that we were to take somewhere. It was one of the earlier ones. It was at the first camp, and the cutscene, Arthur was walking up and patting thin air, The horse just didn't spawn. And I couldn't actually continue the quest. I had to reload the game because the horse just wasn't there that I was supposed to take somewhere. They kept getting told, get on the horse. It's like, I can't get on the horse. It doesn't exist. But, I mean, there are buggier games.
Oh,
in
yeah,
fact,
for sure.
The next game we're going to talk about is very buggy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nothing like as bad as that. But it's very cumbersome to play. It is the missions are relentlessly inflexible, which I find a source of frustration so many times. It's like you will follow the path that this mission has, and it often gives you the impression that you can deviate, and you try it, and then it just fails you, and you have to go back to the previous checkpoint, and eventually you just stop trying because you're like, well, I'll just do whatever the obvious thing is that the game wants me to do, which is a bit of a shame, I think. But despite all that stuff, it's still amazing.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a brilliant game. And there's so much more stuff that we could say about it, because we haven't even gone into a lot of the mechanics of the game and things like that. I could
tell you about my my quest to sail from Clemens Point to the Brandywine Farm.
Go on then. This is going to have to be the last thing.
No, but I was going to say, because I'm a sailor now, because I found a tricorn hat and I've got a pirate's saber. So immediately I was straight in the boat to see what I could. So I decided I was going to canoe all the way from the camp all the way up the Kamasa River, all the way up. So I went and to try and find the legendary alligator. Which I know exists, and I went on a massive quest to try and track down this legendary alligator. Unfortunately, I was not successful. I got eaten by an alligator, but it wasn't the legendary alligator. So right. I've kind of given up on that, but
well, we're definitely going to have to move on, because we've talked about Red Dead 2 long enough, but we'll probably come back to it at some point, because, well, we're nowhere near finishing it, are we? So...
No, and they've got the online thing started today. The day
did you actually give that a go?
I've had a quick go on it, but it's hard to say. I mean, it's not, from what I can see of it, it's not exciting me greatly.
Right.
It doesn't seem that much different from the online version that was available in the previous one.
All right, okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. We'll see.
I need to give it a go and see what.
I mean, it's obviously more fun with more people, but it's like get a better horse, get new outfits. It's like,
right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that is Red Dead Redemption 2 by Rockstar. That came out on October 26th, so that's about a month old now. Okay, moving on. So we're going to talk about the bug-ridden Fallout 76, which me and you, again, have been playing and nobody else has.
Yeah, well, everyone else read the reviews of this game and decided not to buy it, so
I didn't.
It's just me and Chris.
Yeah, I didn't read any reviews, because I tend not to, which is weird considering we're pretty much a review podcast, but I tend not to read. I try not to read too much about games before they come out, because I don't want my opinion of them tainted. And to be honest, I'm glad I didn't read any of the reviews, because I haven't seen some of the kickback that this game has got, that Fallout 76 has got. I'm worried about what people expected from this. Like, it doesn't seem right. I mean, it's
a bit disproportionate. But
I would say so. Part of that's
to do with it being Fallout.
Well, that's it. I mean,
Eurogamer gave it 1 out of 5, and they wouldn't have done that if it were not a Fallout.
If it was skinned differently.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't have given it a good review. That's for sure, but they wouldn't have given it 1 out of 5.
Well, that's it, and this is my problem with what people have been saying about this game, and I've just heard so many people, like I listened to another podcast just the other day there, and they were talking about it being Fallout 4.5 and stuff. No, it is not Fallout 4.5, so do not even think about that, because it's not what it is, and I don't know why people do this. Like, people go into games, and not just games, everything. Like, they go into games expecting something, and when their expectations aren't met, they have a disproportionate reaction to it. So if you go into Fallout 76 expecting it to be something like Fallout 4, you're going to be disappointed. So it uses the same engine and all that sort of thing, and yes, it does, like, a lot of the weapons are the same, and the armour and all that sort of thing. It looks like Fallout 4 in a way. I mean, it's kind of set in a different time period, because it's set just after, like, what's it, 20, 30 years after the bombs fell in the Fallout universe. And it's a very green still world. There's still trees with leaves and all that kind of thing, and grass and all that. It's set in the Appalachian Mountains. But it's not. It's just not Fallout 4.
It's not Fallout 4. It's not any of the Fallouts.
It's not.
It's not Fallout 2 either. And like, I mean, I can understand why people way back when this was first announced might have got quite excited about the idea of playing a traditional Fallout game and I mean traditional in the sort of Fallout 2 sense, in terms of the way the story and the quests work, but with multiple people. And that's not what this... It's not attempting to be that.
No.
Like, at all. That's not what they've delivered. So, I can understand a bit of disappointment. But it's like you say, people have to accept that it's a different kind of game.
Yeah, definitely. And
entirely.
That's the point I'm trying to make. I mean, it is what it is. It's not what you want it to be. And people need to look at game like that. Well, people need to look at this game for what it is. So, like, it is a survival. It's a survival game in a sense. It is still sort of mission based. There is a story goes through it, but it's much more like it's an online game where you're playing with multiple people. There's other people running about in it, and you can team up with other people, and you can go and do quests together. I can understand all the complaints about the bugs. The bugs break the game. They really do. There's so many times, like, well, we were playing it last night, Dave, and I had a weird moment where the screen had just gone black for a long time, and I ended up back in the PlayStation menu.
Yeah.
And that's happened. So, like, we both got stuck in a computer terminal.
Yep.
The same computer terminal, we both got stuck in it, and we had to restart the game. There's so many other times I've had the blue PlayStation screen of, here's an error, do you want to report it? Like, and the game's just crashed.
Yeah.
It is bug-ridden.
Yeah, and there's been, like, quests that we've been on where we weren't...
Oh, yeah.
The
robot quest, the robot escort quest, where the robot just lost the path and didn't know how to get off the side of a cliff because it clearly wasn't supposed to go that way.
And Chris wasn't able to activate that quest anyway.
Yeah,
only
for some reason.
And there was no, like, the whole system for multiple people questing together is
slightly broken,
janky. Yeah. Sometimes it works, but a lot of the time it does. So yeah, it's definitely buggy. There's no doubt about that. I mean, they basically patched the whole game. Yeah,
there was a 40 odd gig patch for it within a week or something of it coming out, which was the size of the game, was it?
That's the entire game. I mean, that doesn't mean they've changed the entire game. That's just like so much has changed. They just
sent it out again.
As a whole patch. It's the easiest way to do it, but it's also really bad for people who have poor internet connections.
Yep.
And they're the ones who tend to buy the game on disc as well, because they have a poor internet connection, and then they're like, well, you can't play the latest version. And if you can't play the latest version, I assume you can't play, because it's a multiplayer game.
Yeah, so, that's generally how it works.
So what we're saying about it's not, you can't judge it as a previous Fallout game, that's true, but that doesn't mean the game is not deserving of criticism.
No, not at all.
Because there's a lot of things that are unusual about it and odd about it and questionable as well. I don't think it's necessarily turned out as well as they would have hoped. Because it's rather unfortunate, because there's, I mean, the things you do in this game, you can wander around and explore. You find places, and this is quite a good side of it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And everywhere you go, if you go to a point of interest rather than the generic foresty wilderness, you'll tend to find things, little notes, little tapes, maybe a little bit of story that's not a mission or a quest for you to do, just a little bit of background. And the previous Fallouts have always done this as well, 3 and 4 and New Vegas as well. So that's been preserved, and that's fun. It's not necessarily a multiplayer thing, but that's definitely...
Well, I would argue it's not a multiplayer thing at all.
Yeah.
There's so many times where I've been like, Dave, be quiet, I'm listening to this tape.
Yeah, we try to sort of sync up tape listening, so and things. We'll like read notes at the same time and stuff. It's bits where we're both standing next to a terminal, like going through reading all the things,
Going through all the entries, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't have to play this multiplayer. You can play it solo, and it's probably quite fun to play solo in that regard, because you can just wander around and find things, and that's a whole genre on the PC where people play games where really that's all you do, and you never shoot at anything. So it does that well, and then there's monsters to shoot at, there's crafting, you find all this scrap that gives you materials that you can then craft weapons and improve your weapons and your armour, and also you can build a base, or a camp.
And we've had a bit of fun with that.
Yeah. I mean, we're making it fun, though.
We're making it fun, but I mean, you and I enjoy survival games, I think it's fair to say. And we enjoy base building games, especially like 3D ones, in particular. And we've just, we had a nice relaxing couple of hours putting a little base together. It wasn't big, but we had fun just doing all the stuff. And you can do all the stuff that you can do in Fallout 4 with the generators and the electricity and all that sort of base building stuff, so you can put the lights on. It works pretty much exactly the same as it did in Fallout 4. That aspect of it does. But you can also put in like traps and turrets and like water pumps and things like that. And then, unlike in Fallout 4, like water and food are actually really important parts of the game, because this is a survival game and you do have a water and a food bar, and you have to keep them topped up. So part of the base building thing is trying to create somewhere where you can drink purified water, where you've got food growing and all that kind of thing.
This is I would say your ultimate goal with your camp is to have a supply of purified water for sure, and food. And the food's easy-ish because you can plant crops. I don't know if there's ways to get better, like less irradiated crops, I'm not sure, but there's certainly lots of things you can cook with them, various recipes, and they tend to be more beneficial and less radioactive, which is always good. And I suppose eventually you'll be able to craft things like Radaway at your chemistry station and so on. And so the camp is an kind of assistance to the survival side, and I think it seems to do that okay. Yeah. The stuff with the turrets and so on, you don't really need those. I think it's hard. We haven't played it enough to know for sure.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I think that might change the further through the game you go, but.
Yeah, I know there's a thing in the game called workshops, which are kind of like communal camps that you can sort of take and hold, and then other people come and attack them, so you can build defences there. Weirdly, people can just attack your base while you're not there. It's strange, and the phrase "it's strange" is a really good way to describe this game, because it's just odd, a lot of the decisions. And it's almost like it's trying to be a whole load of different things in this whole survival genre, and not really particularly excelling at any of them. So, like the whole base attacking thing, that's from Rust or Ark, and that's a completely different kind of game. That's a very hostile environment where it's kill or be killed, and you have to team up with friends, or go out alone and have people take pity on you, or just run around and hide. And it's not like that in Fallout 76. People can attack your base. There's no reason for them to do it other than to be a dick. As far as I know, the game, apparently, because I looked it up just to check, apparently they can steal your melons and they can steal your potatoes. It's like, well, okay, fine, they can have the potatoes. They don't need to destroy someone's base in order to steal their potatoes, though, unless they've guarded their potatoes particularly well with turrets. They can't raid your stash or get any benefits from it. All it does is annoy the person whose camp it is, because they have to spend some resources repairing it. It doesn't get destroyed, they just repair the bits that have been damaged. Like, while I was away, a guy who was like level 40 or something, and I'm like level 10, I could see him in my camp while I was miles away. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do about this? He's like, if I go there, he'll just stand there and continue to destroy my camp. It's like, what can I do? As soon as I shoot him, it sort of triggers, he'll shoot me and it triggers the sort of PvP and he'll just kill me.
Yeah.
And then I'll respawn, I'll have lost some stuff, I'll be near my camp, he'll still be there. I'm like, what is this? It's like, all you can do, as far as I know, is log off, which is what I did. And I went back and he destroyed my bed and my door and like, what a dick. So it's like, it's odd. It's like, what is that? It's not really anything. It's just something you can do in the game that doesn't quite work.
So, but I'm wondering if because we haven't experienced any reason so far to destroy somebody else's base or even attack another player. Like,
well, I can't say with certainty.
But
outside of it, there's like events and things which may involve attacking other players, and those are.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It may be further along the line that stuff like that might become relevant, but I can't see how, because the story doesn't really point in that direction. The story points in the direction of there are these ridiculously huge, almost dragon-like things that are cutting about the place, and they're all radioactive, and they're ridiculous, and they'll just want to destroy everything. They're what they call the Scorched.
The Scorch Beasts.
The Scorch Beasts.
That are creating the Scorch.
And they create the Scorched, But I mean, that you find all this out pretty early in the game.
Yeah, we've not got that far.
But like, I'm finding it hard to see how the story could point you in the direction of, well, why don't you all kill each other?
No. Well, I think one of the things, now we haven't done this, but I believe boss monsters are a thing in this game, like the Scorch Beasts, and presumably many others as well. And teaming up with other players to take down these boss monsters seems like it would be a thing. So that's like a thing you can do, and I can see how that would kind of work.
Yeah,
kind of. But yeah, everything is sort of not quite amazing in this game. So like, we're having fun playing it, but I think it's because we're making it fun.
Yeah.
Like, we're making it more fun than it has any right to be.
You're probably right.
In my opinion.
But for me, the fun in it is just running about exploring the place.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Just running about, discovering all these different things, finding out. Like, there's some funny parts in the game. Like, that robot we found last night, Mr. Fluffy or whatever he was called. Like, he was hilarious.
Yeah, it still has the Fallout humour.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's standing over the corpse of his old master and just basically lecturing the corpse for being useless. And it's just like, you could stand and listen to him for ages, because there was quite a lot of dialogue there, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, that side of it is good, and I definitely enjoy wandering around and just finding things. I mean, graphically it's not phenomenal. It's on a kind of, it looks like it's on a slightly aging engine that they're using for it.
Yeah.
And obviously, having just come from Red Dead Redemption, it's very, it does not compare well. But it's still nice going to places and you're like, oh, what's this place? And you're like, oh, we went to an airfield. And you're like, oh yeah, it's an airfield. And there's airfieldy things to find. I mean, we went into again, this is very early, but we went into the terminal.
Yeah.
And it's kind of amusing to see inside the terminal. Like, there's funny, it's not event or scripted stuff. It's just the way it's laid out and built is with the various bits to check in, and there's some, there's amusing things to find.
I hacked into a terminal and tried to check into a flight, and it wouldn't let me.
Yes.
It just gave me error messages.
Like, you can go and see all the ridiculous things that people have supposedly tried to take through the X-ray machine.
Oh yeah, exactly.
In the back room for stuff that's been confiscated,
like a lawn trimmer and stuff.
So
has all the you're right. It has all the Fallout comedy and flavour there, especially in the last couple of games.
Yeah, based on what we've seen, that's definitely a big strength of the game. And the only thing is, like we said, you could totally play that on your own, and you wouldn't really, you're not going to lose anything from. In fact, it's actually slightly better on your own because you can do it all at your own pace. That side of things.
I don't know. I mean, I quite enjoy playing it with you because there was a lot of, oh, come and look at this. This is great.
There's only 2 of us though. Can you imagine if there's like 5 people?
Yeah, well, that would be a different story.
Or 4, let's say. Because I remember I had this issue playing Borderlands, the first one, with friends, and they would just be like beasting through quests and activating things, and like it would just, I had no idea what was going on. It was like, right, we're going here and where I'm shooting. I'm like, I don't know why I'm shooting these guys. I believe there's some sort of story going on, but I really don't know what it is. It usually involves killing people, so let's just do that. And it would be like we're making a concerted effort between the two of us to like I don't just run off and activate things without like telling you what's going on or waiting for you while you're doing stuff. And yeah, I mean, you can play it that way. It's a good way to play it, I would say. To me, the only thing is there are other games that do this. I mean, yes, this game presents a unique combination of elements, but you know, a unique blend, if you like, of base building, survival, exploration, shooting things, missions. But each of those individual things is represented much better in other games. So, like, if you want to build bases, like, okay, yeah, it's all right in this game, but it's not amazing. And you could play 7 Days to Die and build the base of your dreams, but you wouldn't be able to go on like exploring is not super exciting in 7 Days to Die because you just find
it's randomly generated and everything is badly generated sometimes. So.
Yeah, and like, but you know, you could there are so many survival crafting games, and some of them have story elements in them as well. That the competition for this is huge. Mm-hmm. Maybe not on console, but for people on PC, there's a lot of competition for this game. You know, these other games we've talked about, like Rust and Ark, Minecraft, the umpteen ones that we've played, Subnautica that we've talked about before. I mean, that's a phenomenal exploration game. And I think this game is not excelling of what we've seen of it so far. Yeah. And they're going to have to patch this game like multiple times.
I think so.
I mean, I know I've read about patches coming out, but those are more like quick fixes of like things that people are really, really complaining about, like the you can't store that much stuff, and people are irate about this for some reason. So there's things like that, but some of it's more content-wise. They're going to, I think.
Well, that's what I was going to say. But I mean, do you think that they're going to release like updates for it that'll dramatically change the content of the game and the way it's played?
I think it's possible for them to do it. Like at the moment, you can build a base, but like there's the defensive aspect of your base, which doesn't really mean very much. Like sometimes little monsters wander past and your turrets shoot them, and when players come to attack your base, your defenses won't really mean anything because, you know.
Yeah.
But they could make that into something. Like everything, the stuff is there, bugs aside. The framework is there to add stuff onto, to make a very entertaining game, I think. I mean, being tied to the whole Fallout engine and mechanics, I mean, that's always going to be a downside, I think. Because the way you shoot things in this game in Fallout is not amazing.
No.
The sort of shooting stuff it's alright, but it's not as good as in other games. It's a very particular way that was done that way because of the single player and the VAT system. And it doesn't translate so well. So it's kind of hindered in some ways. But I think, well, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, whatchamacallit, the space sim game, No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
That managed it. I mean,
it kind of got somewhere in the end. In fact, they updated that again not that long ago, actually. It's now got a whole underwater thing going on. Do you think it's going to go down that route? Do you think it's going to be the next No Man's Sky in terms of the way that it gets updated?
I mean, it's impossible to know what goes on internally at the company. I mean, how they see it, how they viewed it in a sort of long-term sense. I mean, the game has a system of microtransactions for cosmetic items, and a lot of effort has presumably gone into that. And there's a lot of different outfits you can put on in this game, and you can buy them with real money. And if they want people to spend that money, they're going to need to do something against this really harsh critical response that it's received, and it will remain to be seen whether they just give up or persevere with it. Because I mean, we're being negative and positive about it. We've had a lot of fun, but I think it does come across the way it is as being a bit like a cash-in. Almost like it's just playing on the Fallout name to get people into this game, and not really, it's not delivering Fallout, but what it does deliver, it's okay. But I think it needed to be something much, much better to get people to come and play it. We need to see, though.
Well, I'm still sticking to my theory that there hasn't been a Fallout game since Fallout 2.
Well, I think you're right. I didn't like those other games. Fallout 3 in New Vegas I don't like, so it's no loss to me that it's not like that.
The more I think about it, actually, because I put a lot of time into Fallout 4, but I think that's probably been my least favourite of the Fallout series.
Is it not everybody's kind of least favourite, I think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, is it? I've never really taken the temperature or anything, but
people don't like the way that the story was dumbed down as the sort of kind of gist. So already it was going the whole, this isn't really a Fallout game. It already headed in that direction somewhat with Fallout 4. But then people who hadn't played the older games, some of them got really into Fallout 4. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts, but I don't know.
Well, Fallout 76, it's alright.
I'm still having fun. I mean, like,
you're going to get out of it whatever you're looking for, I suppose.
I've been like playing it, and I played a little bit in my own, even when Chris wasn't there, and that was because I wanted to like make a wee base and just do some stuff. And I love the upgrade system as well. We didn't mention it, but the cards and the leveling and the special system. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, actually, we should mention that because that's actually one of the cooler aspects of this game, I think, personally.
It's completely new, isn't it?
Yeah, it's completely new. This is one of the things, this is one of my arguments about it being not a Fallout sort of main series game. It still has the special stats, still has strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. But instead of like in normal Fallout game where you start off with like, I think you start off with 5s and all of them, some spare points that you can then throw around the place. And this, everything starts at 1. And it's completely different because it does affect some things, but you don't have any of the sort of feats and all that kind of thing that you would get in,
Yeah, the perks.
And the perks. And
I can't remember what they're called.
The skill points that you would have had in, like, I can remember early Fallout where you could get 200% in small guns and stuff like that. So it's got none of that. But, like, strength still affects, like, how much you carry, endurance is still affects your hit points. Charisma's interesting in this game because it's actually useful. In terms of the game mechanics rather than
story
mechanics, because it actually lets you share some of these card things with people on your team, and the cards are cool because they're little point value cards, and if you have like 4 points in strength, you can have 4 points worth of cards, and the cards do things like the strength ones, for example, you could get a card that does 10% extra damage with two-handed melee weapons. And you can, if you get 2 of those cards, you can combine them together to make a stronger card that's then worth 2 points and gives you extra bonuses. And you get little packs of cards every so often. Interestingly, you can't buy those as part of a microtransaction, which I thought would have been a thing, but you can't by the looks of it, unless it's something they might add later. I don't know.
I don't know. It is very surprising because it's an incredibly obvious thing.
Yeah, definitely. It was the most obvious thing to me.
Because you can't trade these cards, and opening these packs is great.
Yeah.
Well, it's great the way it is at the moment because you don't get them very often. So you get a random selection of cards. Because every time you level up, you can choose a card from a predetermined selection, and more unlock as you level.
Yeah.
But quite often you want more than one of particular cards, or you want access to cards that just aren't there in the sort of predetermined list, and those are what you might get when you open the card pack. So it's exciting opening a pack because I'm like, well, I really hope I get Gunsmith. Or whatever.
I was quite excited last night when I got the one that let me make melee weapons because I'm just sticking loads of points into strength and running around with what's the weapon I've got right now? It was a spiked board.
This game has so many melee weapons. It's
ridiculous.
It's way too many.
It's good,
stick. But you tend to use the best one. This is the thing. So you're like, I really want to use my meat hook, but
it's a sharpened pickaxe I've got right now. That's it. The boxing glove, I can't wait to upgrade the boxing glove. That's going to be fucking great times. And the best thing about it is it's just one boxing glove. It's not two.
One fist. That's all you
One
need.
fist. So yeah, that is one aspect of the game which I think is great.
Oh yeah, there's loads and loads of these cards, and they do lots and lots of different things, and a lot of them are tied into the survival mechanics, or the VATS mechanics, or crafting and base building. And you can make, I can see that there's like different like builds that you could go for. There's some quite interesting ones in there, particularly in the, there's like, well, do you even use VATS or not? Because you can just decide never to use VATS, and then that allows you to take all sorts of different cards. But there's ones that are tied into the VATS targeting that sound like they would be really strong. But you have to make a build that will allow you to use because VATS only runs for a certain amount of time before you run out of your action points. So you need lots of whatever it is that gives you lots of action points. Agility, I think it might be. Whichever stat it is, and like, you know, but you'd also need perception because there's no point using it if you can't hit anything. So there's a bit of flexibility in there, and it's just something that's a little bit different in the fact that you can share cards with other team members, and if you've got a persistent group of people, you could take different builds, and there would be a benefit to doing this. There's no point in everybody taking the same crafting cards.
Yeah.
If there's like 4 of you. I mean, you can if you want, but like if you've got a persistent group, then no, you don't have to. Someone can take all of the things that are in intelligence, and then the other people don't have to dump all their points into intelligence, because that's a waste when you're shooting things.
Well, I like what we're doing, because you're the lockpicker and I'm the hacker.
Yeah.
So like, you can't hack level 1 terminals, but I can. But then I can't hack level 1 locks.
Sure,
so.
and that'll become more so when there's like the higher versions of those cards, which are much rarer as well. So yeah, but also if I have the level whatever lock picking, I can share it with you.
Yeah, and
then everybody on the team can pick the locks, but they have that space is then free, and whichever stat that is, perception, I think that their perception stat is then free to put other like more interesting stuff into. So I mean, again, the system is not perfect. There's some issues with the way it's implemented, and like there's a few other things, like you can get, if you get duplicate. There's some cards are unique, like you can only have one of them, and if you get a duplicate, I don't know. I think you just lose that card, because that happened to me. That annoyed me. I thought I would get an extra card or something. So, but it's just different, and I like it, and it's something that I'm saying it doesn't excel. Well, here's something where it's done something a little bit differently, and it's all the better for it. So they just need more stuff like that.
More good ideas like that.
more Scorch Beasts. I've only seen the Scorch Beast once. I need to see it every time I play.
I used to spawn above everybody's base. Right, anyway, we are going to have to wrap the episode up there, because we've only talked about 2 games, but that has gone on for quite some time. But they are pretty hefty games, so they probably deserved it. We did have something else lined up to talk about, but let's not drag this out. It was a pretty chilled out episode after the insanity that was episode 100, which tired me out. That was a full-on week.
Yes.
But we should give out some information, because at the start of the show you heard our new theme tune.
Yeah.
And we recorded that, us, as in the podcast hosts, so we'll give a rundown on who did what, because I think that's important. Because one of the things we want to do is to make sure that everybody played something on the theme tune. We had to get a little bit of help. So the main instrument in the theme tune is the accordion, and that was none of us.
Yes.
It just so turned out that what the accordion player played was so good that we had to just use that as the main thing, because we couldn't beat that.
No.
And that was my fellow bandmate in the Matatunes, Euan Zeberia, I think his name's pronounced, or Cheberia, possibly. Mm-hmm. So thank you very much, Euan.
Yeah.
Now, I played the guitar on that. That's me, Chris Hanratty. Dave McCreary, that's you yourself. You played the bass.
Yes, it was a very intricate bass line.
Very intricate bass line. Same with the guitar as well. Very intricate. Euan, our fellow podcast host Euan Glasgow, he played the banjo. And Pawel, the wonderful Pawel, the legend, Pawel Daruk, he played the cowbell that you can hear every so often. We may have had to even fix that a little bit when he played it in the editing process.
No, he did a good job for a man who's never played a cowbell before.
Or anything.
He excelled.
He did. The drums were done by myself and yourself, it's fair to say, and I think that it's also fair to say that you did pretty much all of the production work on that, and a good job you did.
Well, it was a team effort, but...
Well, you say a team effort, I just sat there going, put that bit there, Dave.
Yeah, but that's a valuable... It would have sounded very different if I'd just done it myself.
Yeah, you're probably right. Okay, so that's the new theme tune. That's how that came about, and we hope you enjoy it. Please don't start writing in and complaining about this one, because I had enough about that last one.
Yeah, this has got to last at least 100 episodes.
Yeah, it's got to last another 100 episodes
and
before we change
more.
it again, and it becomes techno. Okay, we'll give out all our internet stuff. If you want to email us, you can do so at firstplayertoken@gmail.com. That's FIRST Player Token. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Twitch. We have a PSN community. We have a Discord, which is discord.me/firstplayertoken. So I should say that everything is FIRST Player Token, the exception being Twitter and Twitch, which is 1ST Player Token.
That's once Player Token.
Thank you very much, David. And also, we are part of the Podnose Network,
the UK's leading entertainment podcast network.
Do you know if there's any news, Dave?
I don't think there is any news, but I understand the Patreon is still going.
The Patreon is still going. So you can check that out.
George is very much alive and well, despite reports to the contrary that you may have heard.
So you can go to podnose.com to find a network of podcasts there, which we are a part of. Mm-hmm. So we'll be back next week. We're hoping that Dinosaur Island's going to turn up in that time.
Let's hope so.
And we'll have another couple of board games played in that time, I hope, as well. So hopefully the next episode is going to be a board games episode. But until then, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.